Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today, Masachtas Bava Daf Ayin Tes. We're going to begin on the bottom of Ayin Chesem Beis. Boy Rav Papa. So Rav Papa asks the following question: Ganva kata umachra mahu. Let's say a person stole an animal, and then he cut off its leg, and then sold it. So what is the Hava mean over here? So Mahu mi amrinan madiganav halozavin. Do we say that what he stole he didn't sell? Or dilma madazavin haloshir teku. Do we say that, as we've been learning in yesterday's daf, that if he would say, for example, the language of the Mishnah, machur chutz me'echad memeh, and we had different opinions what exactly is the part that he's keeping for himself, does that make it that it's, even though it is, maybe it's halachically it's a mechira, but it's not a mechira that he'll be chayav dal dehay in, because there's a shiur, he left something over. So over here, do we say that he sold everything, so therefore he is chayav dal dehay, or do we say that which he stole he didn't sell? Take it. Tanurban gana v'nasan la'achar v'tavach. Let's say he stole, which certainly is going to be chayav dal dehay, and then he gave it to someone else, the tavach, and they shechted it. Rashi says, lo nasan b'matana. He didn't give it as a gift. It's not that other person owned it. The imkain afil lo tavach machayev anasina mishum machira. By giving it, it's a form of a machira. Tiny seifa el asu shleach l'tficha machira. Okay, so we're talking about he didn't give anything. He didn't give it, but he stole it and he gave it not as a gift to someone else, and someone else shechted it. Let's say he stole it, then he gave it to someone else, and they sold it. So again, you're not the one that shechted or sold. As we continue to Ayin Testament Aleph, Ganav. Let's say he stole the hikdish, and then he was makdish the item. Ganav hikif. He stole it, and then he used it for some type of a credit. Ganav hichlif. He stole it and used it as a form of bartering. Ganav v'nasan b'matana, he stole it and he gave it as a gift. So obviously, that's how Rashi says, the first case cannot be he gave it as a gift, because it says here he gave it as a gift, so it must be the case that he did not give it as a gift over there. Ganav v'payra chayvai, he stole and he paid up his obligations with it, his debts. Ganav v'para b'hekefai, he stole it and then he paid back that which was on credit. Ganav v'sholach siboilus bebeis chama. What a nice guy! And he sends gifts to his in-laws on behalf of his new wife. Misham tashim arba chamisha. In all these cases, he still pays the 4 and 5. So my kamashmal, and what's it coming to tell you? Ashmi'in and Reisha. It's coming to tell you based on the Reisha that ganav v'nasan la'achar v'tavach deishliach davar aveira. You can say, well, in second, why do we say, okay, I stole, so I'm chayav kefel, but this other guy shechted it, so we should say ein l'shliach davar aveira, and therefore, if I told him to shecht it, he shouldn't have done it. The fact that he did it, why should I be chayav? Because as we saw before, it's also in Kedushin, that yesh shliach davar aveira when it comes to this din. The afa gav the b'chol tarakul ein shliach davar aveira hacha yesh shliach davar aveira. So it's a chiddush. And there's 3 reasons, as are said before. My time with tamacha machara, my machira dolo esher dolab alidei acher. The only way you could sell something is with a second person. Av tficha alidei acher machayev. So therefore, the din is that you're chayev, even though you're not the one that shechted it, because we say yesh shleach devar aveira. So that's the chiddush of the reish. Mashmin and seifa ganav hikdash. So if you stole it and you were makdish it, so we say mali machul hedir machul shemayim. There's no difference if you sold it to a regular person, or in this case, by you giving it to hektish, so it's a kin that's no longer in your reshus, it's in someone else's reshus, and therefore you're chayav dal v'hei. Say the next masnis. It says the Mishnah, gana b'reshus habayilim. If a person stole an item and it's b'reshus habayilim, v'tavach ha'machar chutz b'reshusam. However, understand this, he stole it, but then afterwards he took it out and shechted and sold it outside of this man's reshus. Says Rashi, kishehoitzi mershusai naslav ganav, that only once it leaves the person's rishus is he considered to be a ganav, and therefore he'll be kainit at that point. Oshe ganav chutz mershusam. Let's say he stole it outside of this person's domain. So therefore he was kainit with Mashiach immediately, and became a ganav immediately. But he did the shechita and the mechira in the rishus, back in the rishus of this owner, or the original owner. He did all these things outside of the owner's domain. Still misham tashumer v'chamisha. Doesn't make any difference. He still has to pay dalid v'hei. That's in all those cases, the ratio. But if he actually would have shech, that was because it was done all outside. So he certainly was kainit in all these different ways. But let's say he stole it. He picked it up, let's say. He stole it. He shech and sold it, but it was all in the rishus of the Baal. So therefore, this ganav really never was kainit anything. So therefore, he's going to be potter. Let's say he did Mashiach, he was pulling it, which is a typical kinyan, and it goes out of the man's rishus. Therefore, that's how he should be able to be kainit. And then umeis rishus abaylim, and then it dies in the rishus of the balim. So potter. So in that situation, he's potter because as he was bringing it out and doing Mashiach, he was not kainit, because you have to actually do Mashiach outside of the owner's rishus. Doing Mashiach of an object which is still in the original owner's rishus is not a kinyan. However, hagbiyoi, when it comes to hagbah, which is we saw in Kedushin's kind of b'chol makom, I think in Daf Chavav, ohotziyim rishus ba'ilum umeis chayev. In that situation, you're going to be chayev. Says Rashi, afil rishus ba'ilum shari hagbah kaina b'chol makom in quotes from Seftas Kedushin. Okay, it was Daf Chav Hey. I was a little bit off. Okay. Nasnoi lebechayros, but no, let's say the ganav gave it for the firstborn of his son, and it's still in the owner's rishus. Okay, so he gave, let's say he stole 5 saloyim, which was for the sake of Pidyon Ben, and he gave it to a kayin, but it was all in the rishus of the Baal. O lebal chayiv, he paid off his debt. Any of these Arbasharmim pulled it, because again, if you're doing Mashiach in his rishus, it's not a kinyan. However, as we said, when it comes to hagbah, so that kinyan even works there. It says Rashi, it's referring to the kayin did the Mashiach, the Baal Chayiv, or Shaimer or Meis rishus Baalim potter ganam klum. So as we said, he's going to be potter. It says the Gemara. So boy, right. So Taisus over here says avol ganam v'tavach b'shusai potter, and that's obviously kishloi hagbiyoi askinan shagbiyo havikani v'chayev. Obviously, we're talking about a case where hagbo is not done. Okay, boy meimer. So he asked the following kasha: Tiknu meshicha b'shaimrim o lo. Were we masakin the din Mashiach for Shaimer or not? Says Rashi, Shlo Yischayev Shaimer b'shmira ad sheyimshech. Do we say that, okay, fine, you accept upon yourself a certain level of responsibility depending on which of the Arbor Shomrim you are, borrower, renter, etc., paid or not paid? So the question is, when do you take upon yourself that level of shmira? Maybe it's only once you actually did Mashiach, or do we say no? You have responsibilities even if you didn't actually pull the object that you're watching. So Rav Yemar Tashma. It says over here, Naslo b'chayris b'nai, that you gave the 5 sloim which you stole to a kayin, o l'bal chayv, to the people you owe. So hayam moishcho. So we're talking about if the kayin pulls it, the yaitze umeis b'shus abaylim, and he dies there. So potter. Why is he potter? Because the din of Mashiach didn't work because he was in the Rishos Baal. But what do we see? My love, Shaimer, Ushmamin Atitnu Mashiach b'Shaimer. Why is he doing any Mashiach at all? Obviously, we're talking about because it's required for him to do the Mashiach, right? Fine. So it's a raya that you do need. So Amalei Lo Ganav. That Mishnah is not talking about where the shomer did the Mashiach. We're talking about the Ganav is the one who did the Mashiach. But the shomer doesn't do Mashiach. So Hatani Le Reish already said that. So Tana Ganav Shaganav Bebeis Abayim, Tana Ganav Shaganav Bebeis Shomer. We're talking about a Ganav who steals from the house of the owner, and also in a case where he steals from the house of a shomer. Omer Rav Ashi Lo Tidche. Don't reject this proof, because Mali Ganav Shaganav Mebeis Shomer, Mali Ganav Shaganav Mebeis Bailim. There's no difference. Why would you think that they're two different cases? It's really the exact same idea. So obviously you can't be talking about that. There's a din Mashiach by Shomer. In Marnam, you also learn something similar to this. Just like when it comes to Lukuchais, purchasers, there's a din of them doing a kinyan Mashiach on Metaltlin. So kach tiknu Mashiach b'Shomer. So too Shomer, there's this din of Mashiach. So Tanya Mihachi, again, we learn Kadesh tiknu Mashiach b'Lukuchais, kach tiknu Mashiach b'Shomer. Ukashem shekarka niknas b'kastam v'shtar b'chazaka. So just like, as we learned also over there in Kedushin, that a person can acquire land through either money, shtar, or making chazaka on it, kach schirus, so too rentals, niknas b'kastam v'shtar b'chazaka. So in second, schirus, demai. What are we talking about, rentals? Where did that come in? Elim, if you want to tell me as we continue to Ayin Tess, Amud Beis, schirus, the metaltalin, that we're talking about renting metaltalin, some kli. So metaltalin b'nei shtar ninhu. Where do we find that you give a shtar that's a kinyan? Says Rashi, unihi nami de mikne b'kaspa. I understand you can be kind of something with money. In kabule mishapara, referring to a mishapara that you shouldn't back out, or else if you back out once this has taken place already, it's like a curse to you. You b'shtar lo miknu midi the bavarim ba'alma ninhu. So we don't find that metaltalin has any connection to shtar. So it's hard to understand that we're talking about schiris is schiris to metaltalin. Rather, it must be el rav chista schiris to karka. When a person rents out land, that's what it's referring to, that you can be kinda a rental of land through kesser shtar chazachas. Omer Belezer, ra'uhu shehitmin b'chorshin v'tavach u'machar misham tashem v'chamisha. So let's say you would see that it was hidden in this place, as Rashi, nitman b'yar. It was hidden in a forest, ligno behemois harois sham, to steal animals that were grazing there. So you see that the guy, what's he doing? So this is a guy who is hiding. So he takes upon himself like the status of a ganav. A ganav is someone who does some things privately, and a gazlan is someone who steals publicly. So then we find that he's hiding in a forest, so therefore he's going to be chayav dalad v'hei, because he's like a ganav. So my holo mashach. So we just stop. What do you mean? He didn't do mashicha, so why would he be kind to be chayav all these things? So Rav Chisda shihiksha b'makel. As we saw before, that if you would hit it with a stick, that's also a way of it's a movement that you'll be chayiv. So Amri v'kivan dera'uhu. Once you see him, gazlanhu. What does it mean? You saw him there. If you see him, he's a gazlan. He's not a ganav. A gazlan is someone you see in the public. Says Rashi, v'loi daimel a ganav. If neishnayim dehasam afagav dechazule sharinshi. If other people saw him, u'mistafi minayhu. The Meimer Amar Luminaihu Shaklina Midi of a Chorshin, when it comes to, that's only like a couple of people who may have seen him, so he can still be a Ganav. But when it comes to being in a forest, L'choilhi, everyone sees. Well, Yada Damani, who he doesn't know who, Hach Behema, Vikivan Deloy, Mistafei, he's not so afraid, Mikuliel Magazlanhu. So again, the point is, this case is this person's a Gazlan, he shouldn't be chayiv. So Kivan Deka Mitamre Minaihu Ganavu. No, the fact that we see he's hiding, that already makes him into a Ganav. Okay. Vel Gazlan Hechidami. Where do we find someone who's called a Gazlan? So Amar Avavo Kigain bin Yahu ben Yehoyada. Ben Yahu ben Yehoyada was certainly under the category of someone who did things out in the open. Shenamar, as it says in Shmuel Beis, V'yigzoil, and it uses the language of Gezela, V'yigzoil es hachanis, Miyad Mitzri, he stole the spear from the Mitzri. V'yahargehu, and he killed him b'chanisai with a spear. Rabbi Yochanan can go in Bali Shechem. For example, the Bali Shechem, Shnamers, the pasuk says, "V'yasimu loy Bali Shechem me'arvim," that they did an ambush al Rashi Hahar by the mountains. Then it says clearly, "V'yigzlu es kol asher yaver lehem," and they stole all of the things. Baderach on the road. So the badarach. So therefore, again, that certainly is public. Rabbi, my time mahai. Why does he use this pasuk? Sarmulach kivan de mitamri itmure lo gazlane ninhu. Since it says that they were hiding, so therefore, if you're hiding, you're not a gazlan anymore. It's something which is done more privately, and therefore you have the status of a ganav. Rav Yochanan had the kamat mitamri. No, the reason why they're hiding is deloy nichazinhu inshi. The people shouldn't see v'ne'akru minayu, then they'll run away from them. That's all it means. It's not because they cared. It's just because they wanted to hide so that it would be more effective in what they were trying to accomplish. So now we have a very famous Gemara. So Shalu Talmidav es Rav Yochanan Zakkai. They asked Rav Yochanan Zakkai, how come a ganav has to pay kefel, but a gazlan only has to return the object itself, just the karen? So basically what happened is that if you are someone that is afraid of other people, so then you're hiding. So you're actually showing that Hashem is someone you're not afraid of, and you're more afraid of people than Hashem. But therefore you're chayiv kefil. However, if you do it publicly, you're not showing that you have more fear of people than Hashem. You're making it as though God can't see. Shamas can't hear. Shemer hoy hamamakim Hashem. So it'll be from the depths. Lastir etza, to consider advice. And they were darkened their actions of Gomer. And furthermore, it says in Tehillim, they don't fear Hashem. Furthermore, it says here in Yecheskel, Ki amru ozav Hashem, they've forsaken Hashem, as aretz in Hashem roya, and Hashem does not see. Tanya Meir mashal mishum Rabbi Gamliel mahadavar daime. What is a parable? You have two people in a city. V'yasta Mishnah, they made a big party. Echad zimen es b'nei ir v'loy zimen es b'nei melech. One person invited all the people in the city, but not the king. Echad lo zimen es b'nei ir v'loy zimen es b'nei melech. Invited no one. Didn't invite the people in the city. Didn't invite the king either. So eiz mehen oin shomaruba. Who's going to get a bigger punishment? Havi ermen zesh zimen es b'nei ir v'loy zimen es b'nei melech. If you really slighted the king's honor by showing respect to the Bnei Ir, but not to the king himself, that's worse. So too, a Ganav who shows more respect to the Bnei Ir than to Hashem, the Melech. Amar Meir, Kama Gadol Koyach Shel Malacha. So important is work. Sure, Shabitum Malachtoi. So we've been always saying Arva Chamisha. For which one? So when it comes to an ox, that it's mavatal from its work, the fact that you stole an ox, so chamisha. So therefore, because the owner needs this ox for it to do work, and you took this ox, so therefore you have a higher penalty of 5, because you not only did you steal and shecht, but you also prevented this person from being able to do work. However, you stole the sheep, so you only have to pay 4 because the sheep is not an animal that he needed to do work with for his field. So therefore, the punishment is not as great. So we see how important malacha is, that the Torah emphasizes and recognizes the great financial loss of an individual who has his ox stolen. So great is the honor of people. Shor shahalach baraglov, an ox that walks on its own feet, chamisha. So you pay 5, which is really what you're supposed to pay. But sesh yirchivak seifo arba. When it comes to the ganav who stole the sheep, so because he had to carry it, so therefore that caused a little bit more pain for him, and therefore we're not going to charge him as much. So because the lack of kavod brius, if you will, that was displayed by this person. So therefore, that was like part of the oynish, and therefore he will not have to pay 5, but he'll only have to pay 4, which is an unbelievable, beautiful thought. See question 10. So either because the ox which is mavatam malacha you pay 5, or since the sheep which you had to carry on your shoulder, so therefore the din is we're lenient and you only have to pay 4. Let's keep going. It says next Masnisan. Ein megadlin behemadaka be'eretz Yisrael. We don't want you to raise small animals in Eretz Yisrael. Says Rashi Mishum Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Shemaviris hasadis, because these little animals are going to eat up into the fields. The whole sados Eretz Yisrael stumman Yisrael. So because they're Jewish fields, so therefore we don't want these animals ruining people's fields. Alba megadlin beSuria. You could raise them in Syria, because Rashi says we hold that even though David Hamelach conquered this area, he holds that any Deloshmi Kibush, it's not considered to be like a halachic conquering of Eretz Yisrael, and it has the status of Chutz La'aretz. So Chutz La'aretz is Mutter L'Gadol. You're allowed to raise small animals there. Also, Uva Midbarais, Shel Eretz Yisrael, in desolate places or deserts, where you don't have to worry about these animals eating into people's fields, so that's also allowed. In Megadlin Tarnagoyim Yerushalayim Emnei HaKadoshim. We don't allow you to raise roosters, chickens, even Yisrael cannot do this because of Kodshim. Not just a Kohen, but even Yisrael. Says Rashi, Yisrael Oichlin Shom Basar Shlomim, because Yisrael could eat a carbon shlomim, which is for the Baal, V'toida, U'maiser Behema. These are all things that the owner has a connection to. So what's to do with the tarnagol? So as Rashi says, V'derech tarnagolim when nakir ba'ashba. They are pecking in the heaps, in the dirt, in the garbage heaps. Shema yaviu etzem kadasha. Maybe they'll bring a bone the size of a lentil. Minasheretz v'yatamu es hakadoshim. It can be matam the kachim. Okay, fine. Etzem kadasha. All right. V'loy, back in the Mishnah. V'loy kohanim be'eretz Yisrael nemnei taharis. So also anywhere in Eretz Yisrael we don't want kohanim doing this in all of Eretz Yisrael, because kohanim are eating truma and therefore they have to be more careful in being tahar. Ein megadlin chazirim b'chol makom. You can't raise pigs. Lo yigadol adam as a kelev. You can't raise a dog. El imkein hayikashim b'shal shelos, unless it has a chain, so it doesn't run wild and becomes a rabid, dangerous animal. Ein parsin nishivoin nishayvin l'yoinim. So you can't spread out these various nets for doves. El imkein hayrachak min hayishav lamed ris. You have to be at least 30 ris away, because otherwise it could be belonging to another owner. Could be a form of stealing. Says the Gemara. 11a. Only in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim rather, because of Kodshim, and for Kohanim b'chol makom imnei hatruma. Okay, says the Gemara. Tanaban ein megadlin behemadaka Eretz Yisrael. You can't raise small animals in Eretz Yisrael, but megadlin b'chorshin. But in these areas like forests where there's no fields, it's not going to eat up into the property. Shiba Eretz Yisrael, Aval Begadlin Bechorshim Shiba Eretz Yisrael, and B'Suria feel b'Yishuv. B'Insar Macham B'Chutz La'aretz. Certainly in Syria it's allowed, even if it's a Yishuv, and certainly Eretz Yisrael, these you can raise a behemadaka. Tani Idach. We learn furthermore in Megadlin behemadaka be'Eretz Yisrael. Aval Megadlin b'Midbar Shebihuda. In Midbar Yehuda it's allowed. But Midbar Shebisfar Akoi, and also by the border of Akko, that is another exception. Even though you're not supposed to raise small animals, we will allow you to raise large animals. Why? So this is actually question 11b. Is because it's a gezerah that you just impossible to people to accept. Says Rashi, Sricha b'yishuv l'masoy v'charisha. You need it for carrying loads. You need it for plowing. So you can't tell people in Eretz Yisrael not to have a behema gasa, because you need it. It's just a practical requirement to have horses and oxen. So a behema gasa, we have no choice. But at least a behema daka, you can get away with not needing. Behema daka efshel havi mechutz la'aretz. Behema gasa yeshel havi mechutz la'aretz. A behema daka you can grab from outside of Israel, but not a behema gasa. V'yafal b'yishamri in megad behema daka avol mashehu koidim l'regel shoshim yoyim. You could hold on to it 30 days before the regel. The koidim mishti benoi lamed yoyim. You can also hold on to it 30 days before the mission of your son. So the last shouldn't be there for 30 days. So what is this talking about? Says Rashi, Lo yoimer, don't say Hareini shayches ha-mukudamois u'ma'achares achraynois afli achar regel ad moloi shloshim yoim l'mekchon. So the Sakhadat Chamina, the enophically regel if the regel passed. The Mechi Zavno, you sold it on Hashda, Akati lo mo le tlasin yoimin, lo name a tlasin mishra shari le l'shuye. It's still not permitted. You can't keep it after Yom Tov, even if 30 days haven't finished yet. El kivan the enophically regel, once the regel passed, lo boy le l'shuye, you're not allowed to hold on to it anymore. Payim and Aleph. V'taboch, however, Rashi is a makabetz as a behemos l'yom hashok. People gather up animals for the marketplace. Lokech v'shayche, lokech v'shaya. V'vad shel yisha haguna shebehen lamed yoyim. However, the last one shouldn't be around for 30 days. So again, we're going to stop there. We really are trying to limit the amount of animals that are in Eretz Yisrael, and certainly behema daka. Question 1, Rabbi Gibber. Haskinu shel Yehoshua shiu marin b'charshin haisedavka daka begasa. Okay, we didn't get to that yet. All right, let's see maybe a question over here. All right, so we saw question 11. Heichanasu chachamim gal l'tarna goylim. So again, it's because either Yisrael in Yerushalayim or a kohen even outside. And again, we were not goyzer behema gasa because it's gzerish rov tzibur in yichon lamoid. TA7. Kishem shekarka niknes kach schiris niknes bekesem shtar b'chazaka. V'parach b'gmar ima mataltlin b'nei shtarnin hu madu loy parach kesef. Why don't we say about kesef that you don't buy if you give kesef for metaltalin, that's also nothing, right? It's not a kinyan. So he said the reason is because kesef is kainel in the mishapara, mashin came star. So there will be a mishapara on you if you do not accept, if you back down after money is given. Even though it's true you need mashicha, there's also a sheet in kedushin that mois kainais, devar Torah mois kainais. However, according to this, let's just push it. The king is mashicha, but there's still mishapara on the kesef. So therefore, that's why we don't ask kash on that. Let's see, maybe question 8. Maybe this is also done. TA8. If you acquire it, are you allowed to lashais to hold on to it? So that is a little bit on what we talked about. So this is how he says. So let's say you bought it. So leisa b'mechira, no. Alibid rabbanan mutar lishais lamed yoim. If near regel, you could at least wait 30 days. You could hold on to it 30 days before the regel. O amishta beno, o tabach liyom ashuk, right? All these different things, you can hold on to it for a period of 30 days. So there we are lenient. So it says, V'afal pi she'omer ein megad mehemadaka, avol mashahu koidem l'regel shloishim, v'koidem mishta beno lamed yoim, Yisha as yoim, which we said you cannot hold on to it, TA8, after the regel. We have 30 days before the regel you could. Now, Rabbi Gamliel mutter l'shais af yosim ekach u'vavad shel teitze v'tira be'eder el koishe baragli hamita. So we're going to see, I believe, another shita. Yeah. So let's see this next piece of Gemara since we have it here. Shoyel Talmidim as Rabbi Gamliel Mahu Gadol. Can you raise this animal? Amalohen mutter. Yes. Vatanan ein megan. You can't. Elohachi kaboy mine. This is question. Mahu lashais. Can you hold on to it after you bought it? Amalohen mutter b'vad shaloteitze. You're allowed to hold on to it. B'vad shaloteitze v'tira. You can't just let it graze. Be'eder in your flock. El kaishra b'kari hamita. You have to tie it up b'kari hamita, which again will make it more of a likelihood that you're not going to end up keeping it a long time, so it's not going to commingle with any of your other animals. And Rashi says over here, El kaishra v'rabbanan pligal had Rabbi Gamliel. The Rabbanan argue with this shita. So again, according to the Rabbanan, you can wait 30 days. Rabbi Gamliel says it's mutter l'shais, even more than the 30 days, just as long as you don't put it out into your place for it to graze. Okay, so that was TA 8. So we finished that question. Question TB8. Mata mechiluk hatashlumin dedalvehe ben shor l'seh. Okay, this is as we saw, you say the stick a question, which is question also 10. Let's see how I wrote this for TB8. So I wrote like this: Bittul malacha sheshor oisa malacha v'shor eino po lasos malacha. Okay, kavod abrius shahagan of noisin esaseh al ksefo. Okay, question. Okay, TB9. Hechan asol gadol tarnagol mamahatam. So b'Yerushalayim imnei atuma v'shel kohanim b'chol makom imnei hakadshim. Adkan.